Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a really important topic, something many people face, the complexities of marriage.
Yeah, we're looking into what happens when things get tough, when a marriage seems to be struggling.
Exactly. And crucially, what hope there might be for, turning things around. Think of them as a roadmap for understanding these really intimate relationships.
And we've got some great perspectives to guide us. We're drawing on insights from a licensed clinical social worker via marriage.com, some thoughts on marital unity from Tranquil Living,
Hmm.
and also some key warning signs from family life.
Right. And our goal here, really for you listening, is to get a clear understanding of what's going on when a marriage hits these rough patches.
Yeah, to help you maybe spot some potential warning signs, perhaps in your own life or maybe for people you care about.
And importantly, to look at actual steps, things you can do for positive change without it feeling overwhelming.
Okay, so first things first. What do we actually mean by a dying marriage?
Good question. The marriage.com article makes a good point here. It's not necessarily like the absolute end is tomorrow,
Right, not always.
but it's more about a serious decline, a state where the relationship's health, its vitality, is really quite compromised.
Okay, a state of decline. So let's unpack that. What are some of those first signs, the initial red flags that things might be heading downhill?
Well, marriage.com points out a few, and the first one feels pretty fundamental. It's a noticeable lack of effort.
Hmm. From one partner or both?
Could be either or both. It's that point where making sacrifices, going that extra mile for each other, it just seems to fade away.
That really speaks to a lower level of investment, doesn't it? Like that, for better or worse, commitment is kind of weakening.
Exactly. And the effort to make each other happy just isn't there in the same way. It can even stem from like hidden feelings of hopelessness, maybe.
Yeah, or resentment that hasn't been dealt with. Okay, what's the second sign they mention?
Negativity just becoming normal,
Yeah,
like the default setting. We all disagree sometimes, that's fine, healthy even.
sure.
But this is different. It's when criticism is constant and constructive ways of handling conflict just aren't happening.
Ah, okay. And you mentioned John Gottman before, the marriage researcher.
Yeah, this ties right into his work. He talks about needing way more positive interactions than negative ones for a marriage to thrive.
Right. And when criticism takes over, it just eats away at the trust, the safety in the relationship. It's like you're always looking for faults instead of solutions.
Oh, okay. Sign number 3, spending very little or maybe even no quality time together.
Right. Having separate interests is normal, obviously.
Of course. But this is when the desire to connect, to share things, to just be together seems to vanish. The article even says, preferring almost anything else over time with your spouse.
Oh, yeah, that lack of shared time really creates distance. It's like letting a plant wither without water. The connection just fades.
And life gets busy, it can easily crowd out that quality time if you're not like actively protecting it.
Definitely needs intention. So the fourth indicator.
This one's pretty direct.
Hmm.
Just acknowledging, maybe only to yourself at first, that you're unhappy in the relationship.
Ah, that moment of realization.
Yeah, when you kind of admit the joy isn't really there anymore and things feel more negative than positive overall.
That sounds painful, but actually acknowledging it is maybe the first step towards addressing it, right? Ignoring it just lets things get worse.
True. Okay, and the fifth initial sign from marriage.com is a lack of respect.
Hmm. Going beyond just disagreeing.
Yeah, it's criticism that turns into like belittling, making your partner feel small, undermining their worth.
Yeah, that's corrosive. Once respect goes, the whole atmosphere gets toxic. Hard to feel safe or loved then.
Definitely. Now, the article goes even deeper, and it outlines these 15-plus stages of a dying marriage.
Okay, 15 plus stages. That sounds intense.
It does.
Yeah.
But it's not like a strict checklist every couple follows exactly. It's more a look at how things can progress if problems aren't addressed.
Gotcha. So what are the early stages in that progression?
It starts with that first awareness of being unhappy, like we
Yeah.
just talked about.
Mhm.
Then, often, a feeling of being lonely, disconnected.
Even when you're physically together.
Exactly. Like being in the same room, but feeling miles apart. That sense of partnership starts to really fade.
That emotional withdrawal. Okay.
Then comes a breakdown in communication. And it's not just more fighting, sometimes it's the opposite.
Like less communication overall.
Yeah, you stop sharing the little things, the day-to-day stuff, future plans, what you need. It just doesn't get said.
And that naturally leads to less intimacy, I imagine.
Right. Not just sex, but, physical touch, emotional closeness, all of it starts to dwindle.
And if that goes on, the detachment gets worse. People start feeling like roommates, basically.
That's the term they use, just sharing a space, not a life.
Wow. What comes after that, typically?
Often, there's a withdrawal towards other things, other people, other interests.
Like hobbies take over or friendships become the main focus.
Yeah, or worse,
Yeah.
shared activities might stop, and the focus shifts completely outside the marriage. This is also where the risk of looking for validation elsewhere comes in.
Seeking connection outside the marriage.
Yeah.
Emotional affairs, potentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which, of course, just drives the wedge deeper. It's often a symptom of those unmet needs inside the relationship.
Makes sense. It's cycle.
Interestingly, though, the article lists attempts at reconciliation as one of the stages, too.
Oh, so there can be moments of trying to fix things.
Yeah, it shows that the desire might still flicker sometimes. People might recognize the problems and try to make an effort.
I would like
But the article points out these attempts can get exhausting and fail if the real core issues aren't being tackled effectively by both people.
Right. So good intentions aren't enough if the underlying problems persist. That must be incredibly discouraging.
Hugely.
Yeah.
And eventually, that can lead to just indifference, apathy, not even having the energy to fight or fix things anymore.
Just giving up emotionally.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then often comes what they call the last straw.
Ah, the breaking point.
Yeah, that one specific event or moment that just brings this stark clarity, like, okay, this is really over.
A point of no return, almost, where forgiveness or trying again just feels impossible.
And from there, the stages become more about the practicalities.
Mhm.
Thinking about lawyers, separation, divorce.
The legal side, and then eventually moving on one way or another.
It's quite a sobering picture of how things can unravel if those early signs aren't dealt with.
It really is. But let's shift gears a bit, maybe towards a more hopeful angle.
Yes, please. Let's look at the tranquil living piece. They focus on building and keeping that sense of marital oneness.
Right. They start with that classic idea, you find it in religion and elsewhere, of two people becoming one unit in marriage.
And they immediately flag the danger of growing apart. How does that happen, according to them?
Often through just busyness, being pulled in too many directions by individual things, external interests, and forgetting to nurture the shared life, the connection as a couple.
That makes sense. Life
Yeah.
gets demanding. What I found really fascinating was how they connected this to psychology.
Ah, the Gestalt principle of proximity.
Yes. Can you quickly explain that for anyone not familiar?
Sure. Basically, Gestalt psychology says our brains naturally group things together that are physically close. We see them as related.
Okay.
So, tranquil living applies this to marriage. They argue that being intentionally close, physically, emotionally, sharing activities, actively builds that feeling of oneness that we feeling.
Huh. Like, the closer you are, the more your brain perceives you as a single unit.
Kind of, yeah. Think about work colleagues. You probably feel more connected to someone you work closely with every day than someone in another department you barely see. It's about that closeness fostering connection.
That's a great analogy. So, consciously treating closeness reinforces the we in the relationship.
Precisely. And they stress this isn't a one-off thing. It's a daily commitment, shown through actions even when you disagree. Choosing to move towards your partner, not away.
Right. Intentionality again.
Definitely. And they talk about intentional love, too, like learning and speaking your spouse's love language.
Ah, the 5 love languages idea. They use touch as an example.
Yeah, just as an example, the point is actively figuring out how your partner feels loved and then doing that consciously. Love as an action, not just a feeling.
Makes sense.
And they use this powerful analogy, marriage as an incubator.
An incubator. How so?
Like an incubator provides a protected environment to grow something. What grows depends on what you put in and how you tend to it.
God.
So marriage grows what you invest in it, the good or the bad.
I like that. It really emphasizes our role in shaping the relationship. It's not just passive.
Exactly. And they also suggest that the really deep love in long-term marriages comes less from the initial spark and more from those continuous intentional choices to stay close, to move closer over time.
That's actually really encouraging. It means connection can deepen with effort. It's not just fixed.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, so let's bring in Family Life's perspective now. They list 7 specific signs that a marriage might be in serious trouble.
Right. And the first one echoes what we heard from marriage.com. It's about respect. Or rather, a lack of mutual respect.
How do they frame it?
They talk about partners focusing mainly on each other's weaknesses, their failures, their flaws.
Ouch. That sounds like a recipe for resentment.
Wow.
What's their suggested fix?
It's practical. forgiveness, and consciously shifting your focus to gratitude. They even have this exercise. If you're stuck on negative thoughts, force yourself to think of 3 things you appreciate about your spouse, right then and there.
Actively retraining your brain, almost. Okay, what's the second sign from family life?
Lack of responsiveness, that feeling that you're not being heard or you get that dismissive whatever kind of response.
Ugh, yeah, that feels awful.
It does. And they suggest looking why that's happening. Is it self-protection? Fear? And how can couples be responsive but still maintain healthy boundaries? It's a balance.
Yeah, that's tricky. Okay, sign number 3.
This is when another relationship consistently gets priority over the marriage.
Like work or kids.
Could be kids, parents, friends, even work, or sometimes inappropriate emotional connections outside the marriage. Anything that consistently pushes the spouse to second place.
The solution? Boundaries, I
Well,
assume.
exactly. Setting clear boundaries to protect the marriage as the primary relationship. If that priority gets skewed, it causes major strain.
Makes sense.
Number 4.
This circles back to Gottman again, his 4 horsemen.
Yes. Criticism, contempt.
Defensiveness and stonewalling that's shutting down completely.
Right. So
Yeah.
family life highlights these 2.
They do. They say if these become frequent patterns, it's a huge red flag. And they offer a really concrete counter strategy. Shawnee Felton's 30-Day Kindness Challenge.
Kindness challenge. Tell me more. It's simple, but maybe not easy. For 30 days. No negative comments about your spouse to your spouse or anyone else. Find one positive thing to praise them for each day and do one small act of kindness for them daily.
Wow. That sounds like actively rewiring the
It
interactions.
really does. Okay, the 5th sign is a sensitive one. Stopping having sex. Or at least stopping fulfilling sex.
Right. How do they approach that?
They make a key point. See it less as the problem and more as a symptom of potentially deeper issues, like lack of emotional connection.
So address the root cause, not just the symptom.
Exactly. And also, to honestly look at your own part in the dynamic, it's rarely just one person's fault.
That's fair. 6th sign.
This is when one partner is struggling with addiction. Alcohol, drugs, gambling, shopping, porn, could be anything.
A really tough situation.
It's extremely tough. Family life emphasizes honesty is crucial and recognizing the addiction almost as a separate entity impacting the relationship. They strongly advise seeking professional help, both for the person struggling and for the rest of the family.
Absolutely critical. Okay, and the 7th and final sign from family life.
Feeling isolated within the marriage. That roommate's feeling again, maybe daydreaming about being with someone else, holding back emotions, just not being fully present.
That emotional distance. What's their advice there?
Their main message is, you don't have to go through this alone. Talk to a trusted friend, someone supportive, and seriously consider counseling or maybe a marriage conference or retreat. Get outside help and perspective.
Okay, so we've seen the signs, the stages, the underlying principles. Now, the really crucial part, reviving a marriage that's struggling. What practical steps do these sources suggest?
Well, it's encouraging that both Marriage.com and Family Life offer quite a bit of actionable advice.
Good. Like what?
A big one, maybe the foundation, is communication. Open, honest communication. Marriage.com even suggests weekly state of the marriage meetings.
Like a dedicated time just to check in.
Exactly. A safe space to talk about how things are going, what's good, what needs work.
I like that. What else?
Being intentional about physical touch. Both sources mention this. Not necessarily sexual, just reconnecting physically.
Small gestures.
Yeah. Hugs, holding hands, a touch on the arm, small things done consistently to bridge that physical gap that might have grown.
Okay, makes sense.
And date nights.
Hmm.
Scheduling regular time just for the 2 of you away from distractions to reconnect and, rekindle things a bit.
Protecting that couple time we talked about earlier.
Precisely. Another big one is about mindset. Giving your partner the benefit of the doubt.
Assuming positive intent.
Yeah, assume they're not trying to hurt you. And practicing forgiveness, actively letting go of past hurts instead of letting them pile up. It's a conscious shift away from blame.
That sounds difficult, but necessary.
Very. And related to that, actively looking for and acknowledging the good. Praising your partner, expressing gratitude for things they do or qualities they have.
Fighting negativity with positivity.
You got it. And of course, professional help is strongly recommended by basically everyone. Yeah. A therapist provides that neutral ground, helps you communicate better, and gets at those deeper underlying issues you might struggle to tackle alone.
Right. It's not a sign of failure, it's a tool.
Absolutely. And a reminder that change takes time and effort. from both partners.
It's not a quick fix.
Definitely not. And the focus needs to be fighting the problems together, not fighting each other. You're on the same team against the issues.
That's a really important distinction. Anything else?
Family life adds the perspective of faith for those who share spiritual beliefs. It can be a source of strength, shared values, and guidance during tough times.
A foundation to draw on.
Yeah.
Okay. So wrapping this all up.
Yeah.
What's the main takeaway from this deep dive?
I think it's that spotting the warning signs early gives you the best chance. Intervention is easier sooner rather than later.
But even if things have gotten pretty difficult.
Right. Even then, intentional effort, using some of these strategies we've talked about, can still make a real difference. There's still hope for improvement and reconnection.
So this isn't about assigning blame. It's about understanding the dynamics and seeing pathways forward.
Exactly. It's a framework for understanding, hopefully something you can reflect on for your own relationships, or maybe understand others' experiences better.
Definitely food for thought. And for our final provocative thought for you today, let's go back to that idea from Tranquil Living. Marriage as an incubator.
What are you growing?
Right. What are you actively cultivating in your most important relationships? And maybe, just for today, what's one small intentional act of proximity, that closeness we talked about, or maybe just simple kindness that you could prioritize?
It might seem small, but those little intentional acts, they can really add up, can't they?
They really can. Something to think about.